Hey friend, it's Tracy, and today is a very special day here on the podcast. It's Q&A day. Q&A day. Did you know we did Q&A day? Neither did I. Paisley and I got together for this one, sat down. We're answering your questions from the free Facebook group, Living Beyond Obedience, questions that we've received. We're answering those today on the podcast. I'm excited. Are you excited? Let's get into it. Ready to have a calm and peaceful life with your dog without the stress of those fear-based behaviors? Hi, I'm Tracy, and I've been there, overwhelmed by all the conflicting dog training advice and unsure of what to do next. But now I help dog lovers like you simplify your life with your dog by building confidence naturally, fostering trust, and addressing those fear-based challenges. So, if you're ready, stop chopping those chicken wieners and let's get to it. Hello, and welcome to Beyond Obedience, the podcast. Did you know, my dog-loving friend, that you can submit a question inside our free Facebook group, Living Beyond Obedience, and that question may be featured here on the podcast? Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop is right. Also, Paisley's here.
Hi.
Paisley's in the house. She's going to get up right now and try to get rid of the cat. This is all happening in real time. Paisley is grabbing the cat. She is kissing the cat. And now she is yeeting the cat out. There we go.
Hi, cat.
Kicking the cat out of the podcast room. Because the cats, am I right?
Well, how far in are we? She was immediately going after the cords.
Oh, yeah. Cats are
for the microphone.
That's why we talk about dogs.
Okay, I'm back.
There's nothing to talk about when it comes to cats other than wow. All right. So, Paisley's joining us today.
Hello, I am here today.
Paisley's joining us today. And we are going to be diving in some of the questions that were were within the Living Beyond Obedience Facebook group. I'm going to say this is a brand new thing that we started. And we put up a post. Not gonna lie, I don't think a lot of people saw it. if I'm being 100, not a lot of people saw it, but that's okay. It's brand new, right? It's gonna take a while. You probably didn't know. Maybe you're not even in Living Beyond Obedience, and if that's the case, get there, because we're also going to be announcing at the end of this the exciting new thing that's happening inside that free Facebook group that you are going to want to be a part of. So besides getting to get your questions answered and possibly featured here on the podcast, there's something new happening, which Paisley and I came up with, and we're super stoked about it.
So stoked.
Who says stoked anymore? Does anyone say stoked anymore?
We do.
Paisley and I do. I meant like the kids. The kids today?
Oh, the kids are definitely not saying it.
Okay, damn. All right. I tried.
We're going to bring it back, though.
I tried. So we only had a couple of questions inside the Living Beyond Obedience group, but don't worry. We actually pulled questions that we have answered in the past during our Calm Down Dog boot camps or other questions that have come up just to kind of get the ball rolling. We're getting everything going. So Paisley's got a list of questions, and we're going to jump right in. So go ahead, Paisley.
All right. Number 1 here. What are subtle and what might seem like small ways to boost confidence in my dog throughout the day together at home?
Ooh, that is a great question. So we're talking about boosting confidence, small ways that we can boost confidence. Well, first and foremost, if we're talking about a dog that has, is struggling with confidence, the very first thing that we're going to be talking a lot about is just going to be the things like making sure that you're seeing threats, making sure that you're acknowledging the things that your dog finds fearful. And acknowledgement of that isn't just saying, it's okay, you're okay. In fact, what I want you to do is actually act. We're doing an act as if, right? So if you have a dog that is, really freaking out about people outside or dogs outside, you're going to go to that window. You're going to look at the window. You're going to say to your dog, oh, yep, I see that. That's all right. Now let's go do something else. And that let's go do something else is actually an action. We want to actually do something. I think, because I've mentioned the go to the window thing many times. And people will say, yeah, it sort of works, or it doesn't work, or sometimes it works. I think that many people are missing the second part. And the second part is go do the thing afterwards. Like, ask your dog to do something else, because when there's a no, there should be a yes. If I can't do this, if I'm not supposed to worry about this, what am I supposed to do? There's got to be something to replace it. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. So seeing the threats, going to see them, asking the dog to do something else in return, like, let's go over here and let's play a little bit of tug, or let's play a little bit of your game, or let's go find some things, whatever you can do to kind of get your dog to move away from the thing that was worrying them, after you've looked at it and said what it is and it's okay, like, well, say you're fine, and let's go do something else. You can even say, thank you for letting me know, and now I see it, like, whatever it takes. And then other ways that really help to build confidence in dogs is actually utilizing levels or environmental agility. So I think I mentioned this in a previous podcast about how dogs utilize space, like furniture and stuff like that, to have conversations. But levels are a tactical advantage to dogs, and levels and being higher up will just naturally boost your dog's confidence. So you can make little tiny obstacle courses inside your home. If we're talking about, I mean, I'd like you to do it outside, but if we're talking about inside your home, you can make little obstacle courses, asking them to get up on things and be up a little bit higher, and then delighting in the things that they did will really help to not only build that trust in you, but also just help to build a little bit more confidence. So that's just a couple of things that you can do, some small ways to boost confidence. But I want to just remind you that when we're talking about building confidence, we are not talking necessarily about building the dog's confidence, although that is important, but we want to go through all the natural steps of building trust. So to recap what those steps are, and all my the Fearful Dog Fearless Framework students know these steps, because that's exactly what this program is all about. It's step 1, dog learns to trust you, right? And then step 2 is dog learns to trust the situations that you put them in. And then step 3 is dog learns to trust themselves. And I think in a lot of cases, we get so preoccupied with trying to get the dog to trust themselves that we kind of skip over steps 1 and 2. So those little things that you can do in your home to start off is going to be trust building with you. Does your dog trust that you see the things that are frightening them? Does your dog trust that you have what it takes to handle the things that are frustrating, or did I say frustrating twice?
Well, maybe.
Yeah. Sorry. The things that are scary to them. So your dog is looking to see, do you have what it takes? If you're saying it's okay, do you have what it takes to actually handle the threats? So that step number 1, dog learns to trust you, is the first step, and we don't want to miss that. That make sense, Paisley?
That made sense to me.
Even though I said wrong words?
I followed along.
Okay, yeah. Good. All right, what's the next question?
All right, so this one has a lot of context. So
All right.
just give me a minute here.
I love context.
Brace. I have a mini Aussie rescue of 5 years old. She's been in her forever home with me since September. She definitely struggles with confidence. The longer I watch her, I feel she is dealing with anxiety, which obviously doesn't help when she deals with her fears. Her main fear seems to be cars, moving car, parked car, getting in a car. She's better once in the car, but some days she stays nervous. She has been working hard to overcome this fear and has become less fearful the more we practice. Hoping we can work more on this in the spring when it's warmer and I can wait with her to be ready to get in the car. Sorry, I'm taking the long way to get to my actual question. She has chosen certain spots in the house as her safe spots. I have a beautiful kennel, but that wasn't the spot she picked the first day.
It never
or the
is.
subsequent days. I have 3 cats. Ooh.
Oh, this is where, oh my gosh, plot twist. Now we're talking about cats. Okay.
And one is a new kitten.
Oh no!
7 months now.
Oh no.
That found Yasu, I apologize if I'm saying that name wrong, and myself when we were out walking in October. Aw. Yasu seems to believe the common assumption that it's the cat's house. It took 3 months for her to venture past her safe spots in the living room and kitchen where she eats to even walk through a bedroom. I have not tried to push the issue to make her go anywhere and have taken the approach she will eventually feel comfortable to occupy space in all the rooms. Is this the best approach, or is there something I can do to help her feel more confident inside the house with the crazy cats? I have to keep reminding myself it has only been 5 months and she really has started to come out of her shell, but mostly when we were outside.
Okay, so how that is a lot, and thank you very much for your question and for all the context. Um, there's a lot here going on. I love the fact that she's getting used to the car and all the things surrounding the car. And you're right, with more and more practice and more exposure, you can definitely, you're going to see more improvement with that. And it does help when you can be patient. That's a huge, huge spot, a huge thing. So, when it comes to your house with crazy cats, the crazy cats house, it is actually not unusual at all for cats to rule the roost when it comes to space. Cats are probably one of the better species to put up boundaries that dogs really understand. And Paisley can actually attest to that because we have, 7 dogs in this house. And her cat Peanut has claimed Paisley's room as a no dog zone. She did that when we first moved in, and she has not let up those rules for almost 7 years.
Oh yeah, she is sticking with that.
She is sticking with that. And the funny thing about that is that, Peanut doesn't really have to do a lot to claim that space. It's just her presence. She has obviously gone out and gone after a couple dogs in her own way, but cats are actually really, really good at that. And so that's not actually unusual. And I think to be honest, it's probably great that the cats are setting those boundaries and making it understandable for the dog. Okay. So when it comes to the safe spaces in the house and what your dog is currently doing, yes, I would absolutely say you're right. It's fine. It's only 5 months. She's still settling in. I'm going to reiterate what I said in the first question, which is when we're talking about building relationships and building trust with dogs, we want to make sure that we remember that we're working on building trust in you. And so anything that you can do that helps build that trust will then help her trust the situations you put them in. And this is going to be for everything, for getting in the car, for overcoming things on her walk, for overcoming, her fearfulness inside your home. All of that will happen. So when we're talking about, moving forward with her, we can start to encourage her a little bit, but not in a bribey way, right? That's the big thing. I don't want to bribe her into this. I want to see her go through the natural approach and retreat, and sort of watch her go through these things on her own. Where I will say you can start to advocate for her is if your cats have determined that every single space in your home is theirs, okay? That's where we can actually put in some oh no, you don't get to do that, and you can start to step up for your dog. As I mentioned, in our house, Peanut's room, or it's Peanut's room. It's not even your room anymore.
Yep. Even I struggle with those boundaries.
Sometimes she won't let Paisley in that room. But Paisley's room is Peanut's room, and we're okay with making that a no dog zone, right? And that's fair. Now, if Peanut were in our house running amok and telling the dogs they can't go anywhere, I would have a problem with that. I would literally be stepping up and being like, nope, and I would be shooing the cat away. So I think it's important when cats and dogs live together. I think there should be safe spaces for cats, and in places where the dog isn't allowed to go. In particular, and this is really handy, when the kitty litter is in the cat room, and therefore the dogs can't go in there because, as if many people know, dogs do like to get into the cat litter.
Yeah.
Which is disgusting. So we don't have to worry about that in our house because our dogs are not allowed. Even if we leave the house and left Paisley's room open, I can guarantee you no dog will ever step foot in there, even when we're not there. I don't ever worry about dogs going into Paisley's. I keep on calling it the cat's room.
You know what? You can just call it the cat's room.
That's where the cats live. So you get to decide, as the person that pays the rent or the mortgage in your home, what actually is common for all the animals to be present in, and what would be a cat zone and what would be a dog only zone. For your dog only zones, that would be, the crate, if she ever uses it, and her safe spaces. I wouldn't allow the cats to torment her if she's in her safe space. And I wouldn't let the dog torment the cats, or, when she's feeling more comfortable going into the cat space. But you have to decide what is common space and then start advocating for her. And when your dog starts to see you advocating for her, taking the cats and being like, nope, you can't do that, shooing the cats away, encouraging her to come out, she's going to start to trust that you see the threats and that you're taking care of it. So boundaries are one thing, but owning all of the space is another, which cats we know can certainly do that.
Yeah, they have tendencies.
Yeah, cats can be that way. But this is a great question. I think you're doing lots of great stuff here. It has only been 5 months. So you have lots of time to still work on that phase 1, or that step 1, which is the dog learns to trust you. And then the dog will learn to trust the situations that you put them in. And that will be, how you navigate house rules, how you navigate going to the car, how you navigate going to walks. If you want to take the dog places, your dog's going to start to trust that you have what it takes to see the threats, handle the threats, and make sure that she feels safe. There we go.
All right, next question. How do you show in body language that you have seen the threat?
Ooh. How do we show in body language? Well, this is kind of, it depends on what the threat is. Okay. But essentially, I like to remind people that when we talk about seeing a threat, we want to look at the threat with all 3 of our eyes. That was a phrase I used do you remember that? You came with me that one time when we went to remember when we went to go to the kids' schools and we taught them about dog safety?
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Those were fun times. But the kids, of course, aren't paying attention to you at all. They're just laughing at what the dogs are doing behind the scenes. But when we used to do that, so what I used to teach kids, now for them, I was always saying the opposite thing, like don't look at the dog with all 3 of your eyes. And your third eye is your belly button. Okay. And basically all of that sort of forces you to do is to remember that your body language includes your body. Lots of people will turn their head to face something, but their feet and their body isn't facing it. And that's not the same thing in the dog language. So we want to make sure that our dog understands that not only do we see the threat, we see it with all 3 of our eyes, meaning our body is facing it. And when we're facing it, we want to make sure that we're letting the dog know that should something happen, I'm prepared to deal with it. So your body language should reflect that. That's why I'm saying don't just turn your head and look at it. You turn your head, you're just sort of looking at a thing. You're not prepared to deal with the actual threat. So turning and facing, making sure your stance is wide and bold, is you saying, I've got this. Right? We don't want to curl in. What lots of people do, and this is why body language wise, I feel like when we're trying to feed our dogs treats to make them feel better about the thing, our body language actually turns into this very submissive posture because we end up bending over our dog. We end up curling our shoulders in. We're like looking for our treats in our pockets and whatnot, and then we're bent over feeding treats. It actually curves everything in and gives us almost this like we're curling into ourselves. That doesn't portray I've got it to the dog.
You also have absolutely no attention on the threat at that point.
Yeah, you're focused on finding your treats. That's a good point. You're not even looking at the threat. You're like, where's my treats? And here's what I'm feeding the dog. So you want to make sure that if this threat is coming, you're standing upright, you've got bold shoulders, you're presenting yourself like, I've got this. I call it like the Terminator stance, like I'll be back. But you want to make sure that your dog sees that I got this. I always take a step in front of the dog to put myself in between the threat. Now, I started off by saying it sometimes depends on what the threat is, and we will get into the nuances of those kind of things inside the program, because it really does depend on, is it actually a threat? Is it not a threat? We can sort of get over into all of those things. And then you can also utilize your body language to let them know you've seen the threat, but you don't think it's a threat, right? There's lots of things that you can do, but I want you to think about, if I were to, let's think about it like you're playing a game of charades, right? Like, what would you look like if you were showing somebody that you saw a threat? and you weren't scared of it.
Yeah.
And you're not scared
You
of
see
it.
the threat and you have the threat handled.
And you're handling it. Yeah, exactly. So I hope that helps a little bit.
All right, next question. My dog got frightened by a loud clap of thunder and is now afraid to walk near the house. How do I respond to that threat?
Ooh, okay. So, I will first and foremost, that's a great question. And I will first and foremost say, I am not a noise phobia expert. And there are noise phobia experts out there, and it all has to do with like desensitizing and all of that good stuff. There's some steps before that, though, that's because I did take a small course on it. There's some steps before that, which essentially is what I talk about. It's this idea of making sure not only that your dog trusts you, but your dog starts to feel more optimistic in the spaces, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to talk too much about that because, as I say, I'm not a noise phobia expert. I don't know if your dog is noise phobic over thunder, or just it happened to be right near the house and now your dog has a problem with the house. But what I will say is, whenever we have a setback like that, which is unfortunate, right? We have to just take a step back ourselves and go, okay, we got to go back to work on step number 1. Does the dog trust me? Right? Go back and do some trust stuff. Build up that respect and that trust again with you, step number 1. And then when we talk about step number 2 of how do I get my dog to trust the situations I put them in, for me, a lot of that stuff is just going to be, I'm going to go hang out where the dog isn't freaking out, as close to the house as I can possibly be. And I'm just going to hang out there, right? Because we have to life layer that loud clap of thunder that happened doesn't happen all the time. It had nothing to do with the house, right? We can start to work our way around, like, we're okay here, life layering it, get closer and closer, all of that good stuff. I mean, if you want to, you can try, if your dog is food motivated, you can try food scatter and all of that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it's just about taking a step back and going, look, you have to trust me, and then we're going to try this again. I had a similar situation, not with a dog, but actually with a horse. I was at it was like a natural horsemanship day where we got to go on a trail ride and do a bunch of games. It was so much fun. Anyway, right when we were getting ready to leave, everyone was leaving because it was starting to rain. And right as I was putting my horse in the trailer, there was a huge clap of thunder, and she startled. She actually hit her head off the top of the trailer and all of that stuff. And of course, then she balked and she didn't get in. It took about 4 or 5 of us to actually get her in the trailer. But she did make that association that loud noise had to do with the trailer. And so I just had to take a step back, and we had to just sort of work our way through it. And the first time of me trying to get her back on a trailer, no joke, took 4.5 hours. And all I got her to do was to step on the ramp. And then we called it a day. So it is just, it's a patterning thing. It's a trust thing. You just have to keep on working at it.
All right. Up next, we have, if we meet a dog during a walk, do we turn around and not look at the dog?
Ooh. It really does depend on... No, it doesn't. Do we turn around and not look at the dog? No, I don't do that. I had to think about that. I'm like, wait a second, what do I do?
She's recollecting every walk she has ever taken.
I know, if you can see me right now, I'm looking up in the sky, like, let me see, no.
Back to our game of charades, thinking face.
This is what I look like when I'm thinking. No, I don't do that. I don't turn away. I don't turn around and not look at the dog. Now, and the reason why I say that, the reason why I kind of hummed and hawed about that is I will sometimes turn my back on the dog, but I don't turn my dog around. Right? Like I don't turn the dog and be like, don't look at it. I don't like those. If I can say that, I don't like the things that are like, we're just going to let the dog avoid it. I'm not for the whole avoid the stresses that make them stressed out. I really am not, because how are they ever going to get over it if they're not exposed to it. So I don't have that like turn the dog away and don't look at it. I've seen so many people try to like distract dogs away from the thing and all of that stuff, but I'm like, at the end of the day, it seems to me like it's sneaky. Like, ooh, don't look at that. So on occasion, I have turned my back on the threat. I guess I am going to get into that because I said I wouldn't in the in the other question. In occasion, I have turned my threat. I have turned my back on the threat, and I only do this when I know I have spent a lot of time with the dog, and I've built up trust where they really do understand that I've got their back. I've advocated for them enough times that they're like, she gets me 100%. And if the so-called threat that is coming towards us at that time is not a threat, meaning the dog coming at us is not even at all remotely interested in us. They are like I always use the same dog because I imagine it. It's a geriatric golden retriever who is just doing its own thing, and they're not even paying attention, and my dog is losing its mind. I will look at the threat, and then I will turn to my dog and be like, you're fine. And by turning my back on the threat, I'm saying to the dog, this thing doesn't bother me. This isn't a threat. This isn't upsetting me at all. But you have to make sure that you're at that stage in your trust building work that you've done. Because if your dog is still trying to trust you, they think it's a threat and you're going, it's not, so I'm going to turn my back. They're going to be like, you're a moron. We never turn our back. So it really does depend on where you are in the trust game. I'll leave it at that.
Okie dokie. On a similar note, when a threat comes out of nowhere and Kaya goes into freak out lunge and snarling, all I can do is hold on because she is really strong. What should I do in the exact moment when she clearly is so into her reaction that she doesn't even know I'm there? My response at this point is to just hold on, focus on the ground, and wait it out. Then when it's over, I just go on with our walk and try to remain calm.
Okay, that is a great question. And this sort of speaks to the whole, we want to get really good at, I can't remember who the first trainer was that said this, but I liked the idea of it. You want to catch the spark before the explosion. So our communication has to come in a lot sooner in the game. Now, I say that, but there's lots of times that's almost impossible because who's kidding who? The dog's noses know that there's dogs coming long before we'll ever see them. They'll smell it, so they know. But you can start to get really, really good at your dog's stress signals. And I don't mean, now I regret saying stress signals because I want to talk about that in some other, maybe we'll do that in one of the talks. I don't mean like lip licking and yawning and all that. I mean like your dog's starting to get tense, your dog's starting to slow down, maybe your dog's head's pulling back a little bit. Those signals that say that, that your dog's about to load up, we call it loading up. They're about to hit that explosion part. When you get good at recognizing that and you can kind of interject in those moments, you're going to catch the spark before the explosion. But what happens when we miss it? What happens when the explosion already happens? And that happens to all of us. It's happened to me before. It's happened to everybody. When that happens, basically any effort that you put into calming the dog down when they're in that heightened state is going to end up making them worse. So what you're doing by just sort of holding on, standing your ground, looking at the ground, and just waiting it out is probably the best thing that you can do. Because if you try pulling back, if you try saying anything, all of that stuff's just going to feed into the energy of the moment, and it's going to make it worse. The only other thing that I can say is that when we're talking about dogs that are really, really strong, the next thing that I would probably talk about would be, what equipment are you using? And I hate that topic. I hate it so, so much. I hate it so, so much. I hate it because of the controversy around it. But you know what, Paisley, this is a good segue. Let's just talk about it now. We were going to talk about it at the end. Let's just talk about it now, because the big exciting news is that we have decided that once a month inside the Living Beyond Obedience group, we're going to do a monthly talk.
Woo!
Woo! A monthly talk. We're gonna sit down. We're gonna take a topic and we're gonna talk about something. And Paisley turned to me. She said, "You know, it'll be a great first topic." And I was like, "What's that, Paisley?" And she said, "Equipment." And I was like, "Why did you do that to me?" It's like she knew. She's like, "You know what? One thing you don't want to talk about? That's what you should talk about."
That'd be a great start.
Yeah. And so I was like, "Yeah, I guess." And she's like, "It's probably the thing that we need to talk about. We need to talk about it."
Well, there's so much controversy on it.
So much controversy.
And somehow, with all the talking there is and the controversy, I feel like we're still missing the point on
equipment. Exactly. We're missing the point. So that is what is going to be coming up. We haven't picked out the date yet. It's probably going to be second week or third week.
I believe we said third week of March.
Third week of March. So it'll be in the third week of March. So if you're listening to this and you're not in Living Beyond Obedience, you need to get in there. Now, here's the thing. To get into Living Beyond Obedience, there's going to be a question there that's going to say, like, you know, do you agree to be nice and kind and all that stuff? But do you also agree to leave your email? I'm going to ask you very, very kindly, please leave your email. That is going to now be a requirement to get inside Living Beyond Obedience, because honestly, it's the least you can do. Right? It's the least you can do is leave your email. And the reason why, this isn't for like nefarious reasons. The reason why is because my Facebook account has been hacked twice now. And at one time it took us a while to get it back. And to this day, that foreign email is still there and I can't get it out. Like, so my underlying thing is that if everything goes kaputs on me on Facebook, I want to make sure that I can still reach out to you. I want to make sure that I'm still there and you're still part of my life and all of that stuff. Social media can be taken away like that, as the Americans found out with Twitter. Yes, or not Twitter. TikTok.
Yeah. TikTok that got taken down for a few hours.
TikTok got taken down for a while and then came back. But the point is that it can all go away very quickly. So I'm really trying to make sure that I have all of you inside my email list so that I don't lose you. So that's that. Okay.
We'd like to stay in contact.
Like to stay in contact with you. Like, we don't want to lose you. We don't want to be like, I don't want it to be like one day you just, I haven't heard anything from Beyond Obedience for a while. And it's because we got hacked and we're no longer there. Like, I don't want that for you. So, but that's what's going to be coming up. And inside that talk, I'm going to be talking about equipment. And the reason why we have to talk about equipment is because equipment is the thing that is going to give you leverage in your conversations, especially for those that have large, strong dogs. I'm even going to talk about why we need to consider equipment for small dogs, right? But we're going to talk about equipment.
Cries of pain.
I have some like trauma around the equipment talk just because of the controversy, but we're gonna do it. So go to Facebook, find us up there. It's Living Beyond Obedience.
That is our free group, just to clarify.
That's our free Facebook group. So there's gonna be monthly talks there, and we're gonna have discussions. It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be real fun.
It's gonna be great, and we'll see if I get through the first one.
Tracy's gonna have so much fun with equipment.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about equipment. But I am going to actually do demos. I'm gonna bring equipment and do demos. It's gonna be a whole thing. You'll want to be there. All right, what's next?
All right, next question. My dog is generally really friendly, especially when traveling, but he is very reactive inside the house when people come to visit and to anyone pulling in. Pointers, please, on how to deal with this. Some say he is just protecting you. I also need tips on introducing him to other dogs, mainly my pets, because he goes with us when we visit. Mainly my kids' pets.
I see. Okay, that's two questions. That's a twofer there. So, all right. basically, how interesting, right? Your dog's really, really friendly outside of your home, but very, very protective inside your home. So some of the things that we do for that is, one, we ask ourselves this very first question. This is, if you have a dog where people are like, he's just being protective, or you got him for protection, and your dog is protecting you for all of the things, you need to ask yourself, why does my dog feel the need to protect me in this moment? Why does my dog feel the need to protect me in this moment? The reason why I want you to ask that question is because when we're talking about dogs that are being quote unquote protective, they have it in their resume that that's what they're supposed to do. A lot of them, it's in their genetic resume, so they're being protective. But they are still, as working dogs that are in protection, they are still genetically programmed also to defer to humans. They're supposed to defer to the human and basically ask the question, do you need protection? That's also in their DNA. And I think people kind of forget that when we're talking about dogs' genetics, because we use the genetic component as an excuse. We say things like, well, it's just who he is. He's just being protective. We don't consider the fact that we also needed to shape and harness that and also be a presence in the dog's life where they naturally defer to us. So if I have a dog that is protecting me after I've said I no longer need protection, that is what issue, Paisley, in the foundation of relationship? What one is that? It's the number one thing. Leadership, relevance, or fulfillment. Which one is that?
Is that leadership?
That's leadership. Paisley's like, I don't know. That's leadership. That's a leadership issue right there. If I have a dog that's protecting me after I've said I no longer need protection, that's a leadership issue. Or you're actually in danger and you should probably listen to your dog.
Either or.
I've had that before where I'm like, maybe the people you're inviting in aren't good people. I always trust my dog's opinions of people better than my own. But that's 100% a leadership issue. So we need to be I would be looking at that leadership scorecard first and foremost. That would be my first thing that I would do. It'd be like, okay, let's take the scorecard out a little bit and see where we're landing on that. Because at the end of the day, the dog should defer to you. The dog should be like, I feel the need, this is a threat. And when you say it's not a threat, I've invited these people in, that should be the end of that. Now, if you're someone that is really struggling with that, I would suggest highly jumping into the Fearful Dog Fearless Framework, because we do have a whole module on what we call Building Your Brave Protocol. And we do have Building Your Brave Protocols for people coming in your house. So I know this dog probably doesn't sound like it needs to build its brave, but it is it can be insecure. And that's why we're having those issues. As far as the other tips on introducing, I'm going to save that one. Let's save that one for another time, because that's a 2-for-1.
We're going to archive that one.
We're going to archive that one, I think.
Alrighty. Then next question. My dog, who's extremely insecure.
One, Paisley? I think it is.
I believe so.
Okay, that's good, because we're getting a little long in the tooth here, but that's understandable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you love answering questions, just
yes,
really taking your time with each one. My dog, who's extremely insecure, barks and attacks the TV when there is a dog on. Oh, that's fun. I've been telling her she is okay, no threat there. Not working, so now what?
You know what's funny to me? That's a really popular question.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how many people had dogs that go nutso over the TV.
Well, we have it with Irie. Whenever he doesn't go nuts, but whenever you play a video with dog sound effects, you'll see him wherever he is in the house tilting his head.
I love that, though.
He just tilts his head and listens. He's like, "Where is it? I don't recognize that voice."
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? It's funny too, because I have to do a lot of video analysis of behavior, and I actually use my dogs. If the dog is making a lot of noise on the video, I'll actually take a moment and look at my dogs to see what their response is. Because it will be different.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I'm watching a video of a dog alert barking, my dogs will, like, especially Nike, because she's a bit of a ding dong, but she'll like jump off the bed and go look out the window like something's coming. Like, but if it's a dog that is feeling insecure or something, like if it's a different bark, they'll actually like look at me, come to me, almost paw at me like something's wrong. Like, it's actually quite fascinating to me on what the dogs are doing. And I will actually usually report that back to people. I'll be like, hey, you know what's funny? My dog's actually responded to your dog barking. But, yeah, so but dogs barking at the TV is certainly interesting. And I guess we do have it to some extent, in the sense of if I were to watch like a dog documentary or whatnot. But I'm going to say for you that if you have a dog that's barking at the TV and you've said it's okay, there's no threat here and it's not working, I think you're missing the part 2 part, right? So we say it's okay, and then we have to give them something else to do. And when we give them that something else to do, it has to be something that either they know how to do, like whether or not that is a command that you've taught them, like place command or whatnot, or something that is going to be more interesting. I do go up to the TV, like if they're running at the TV and barking at the TV and they're like holding space in front of the TV, I will go up to the TV. I will say, nope, you're fine. Now I won't say this isn't a threat. I will say no to this, right? So this is one of those situations, unlike the window, because the window, there could be a threat there and I'm not sure. Because this is the TV and it's something completely different, I will say no. Okay, this would be one of those instances where I'm going to be like, what you're doing right now, I'm going to disagree with that. And now I'm going to ask you to go do something else. Because otherwise, every time that TV has a dog barking, that's alert barking or the different barking, your dog's going to go up and do that. So my dogs now don't bark at the TV. They will still alert and whatnot if I'm watching a video on my computer. But as I say, I don't say no to that. I actually listen to them because it's interesting I want my dogs to tell me what that dog's feeling, which actually works out really well. But this would be a case where I would say no, and then you have to give them something else to do. Like, what are they supposed to do instead? If I'm not allowed to do this, what am I supposed to do instead? That is literally the other part of that puzzle. And so I think that's probably what you're missing there. I think that's it.
That's all we got.
That's all we got. So there you go. There's some questions that were in the Living Beyond Obedience group. There was also some questions from boot camps and all sorts of things that we went over again, because it's always good. We can always learn from other people's questions, which is nice.
Always.
We're going to do this again. We're probably going to do this once a month. We're going to put another post up inside the Living Beyond Obedience group. You can put your question underneath there to be featured here on this podcast. And stay tuned for our very first talk on equipment.
Fun.
I actually got a little thing in my throat. Equipment. I'm going to tell you all why I don't like equipment. You'll all hear all about it. But if you have been at all in the dog world in any capacity, I'm sure you already know the controversy around equipment and how everybody's got an opinion. Mine is different from some. And some people made sure to tell me that in a very mean way. But we'll get through it. It's inside my group, so I think it should be fine.
It's a delightful group.
The people that are in the groups are pretty nice. It'll be fine. But I'll do demos. I'm going to do the whole thing. I'm going to show you all about all the different equipment. And we're going to talk about exactly why you need to stop worrying about what other people say about equipment and just focus on your relationship with your dog. We're going to do all of that inside that group. So that's going to be pretty awesome. Looking forward to that. Hey, listen, if you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to take a moment and give us a 5-star written review on Apple. It really does help to push the podcast out to more and more people. And if you're not on Apple, you can give us a rating on Spotify, leave a comment, or share this podcast out on social media. Let them know, hey, Tracy and Paisley were doing this cool Q&A, and maybe they can join the Living Beyond Obedience group and be a part of our community as well, and that would be amazing. As always, get out there today and be the person that your dog thinks you are, because your dog thinks that you're amazing. And so do I. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Say bye, Paisley.
Farewell, friends.
That's going to be your sign off. Farewell, friends.
I like my sign off personally.
That's the best sign off ever. I loved it. All right. Bye for now. Oh, and one more thing. This podcast is meant for entertainment and education purposes only, and it's not meant to replace hands-on professional training. If you're really struggling with your dog, please reach out to a professional in your area. All right, I think that's it. Bye for now.